episode 23.
23.
You've got
Wow. I
a
feel like
fresh cup of coffee in hand there, Nicole. Is that what you? Oh, there we go.
always this takes me back to like when I first moved back and I had
Yeah.
like those really creepy cups that were going on with like the animals on them and stuff. But now I just have like my actual stuff.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
Um,
I can't wait
yeah,
for one of
but
these days when we both having coffee at the same time. Cause like I'm winding down now, you getting up. Maybe it's for the better.
eventually,
Maybe that's
eventually,
too much caffeine for one conversation.
probably. But I will say, like, I am just like, I am so tired. I know I look tired. And for whatever reason, like we just went on, I don't know if you probably know. We went back to San Diego
Hmm.
from Idaho and we decided to do a road trip because we have our two little dogs and
Hmm.
usually we stop in Utah on the way to see friends and we like split up the trip and it's about 16 hours and it's
Wow.
about like yeah,
That's
so
a
it's a
lot.
long it's a long trip.
Jeez.
And like I'm not gonna lie to you, Josh, like going and being back in California after like permanently moving to Idaho,
Hmm.
I'm just so glad I don't live there anymore. Like I like the weather is literally the only thing it has going for
Mm.
it.
Mm.
That's like amazing. And like it was great seeing people and stuff like that. But like we like get into California and immediately you can tell the difference with how people are driving.
Mm.
Like people are cutting you off. Everyone's like in a rush, trying to like get somewhere or be somewhere. Or there's someone who knows.
Mhm.
And so it just like if you go into just like a grocery market or like a shopping center, for example, like you'll witness probably 4 to 5 crashes that are maybe happening or almost happening in there. And it's just like for the first time, I was like, ooh, like I'm a little bit anxious driving,
Mm.
like we have a big truck, so I'm never really scared. Like, and people don't usually mess with you if you have a big truck. But it was just like wild. Like right at getting there, I'm like, I want to go home. Like
Mhm.
in Idaho, like we don't have traffic, like we don't have people cutting people off, like people aren't in a rush. People just like want to like do life and like they get
Mhm.
there when they get there. And I just love that so much.
Mhm.
And like I feel like I take that for granted. So when I went there, Taylor and I, the first thing was like, oh my God, it's going to take us how long to get somewhere? You know what I mean? Like we're like,
Yeah, yeah,
wait a second, traffic's like a thing still.
yeah.
But with all of that, we saw family, which was great. Um, anytime, I don't know, like I feel like I was stressed the first time during my entire pregnancy,
Mm.
like ever. Just like we stayed with family, which is always stressful. Like, and
Mhm.
I don't know. It was just a lot. And I remember we were talking about like, hey, like let things roll off of you. And like for
Mm.
the most part, they did.
Mm.
But I do still think that maybe because I'm pregnant, maybe I'm like more sensitive or something.
Mm.
Um, but
What was
anyways,
the like? Is there like? I mean, obviously not going into too much detail, or go into as much as you like. But what was specifically stressful for you
it
about?
was being around like literally like being with family. Like we
Mm.
should have gotten like an Airbnb or a hotel
Mm.
when we were in San Diego because it's just too much. Like we
Yeah.
were staying in a house with my mom, my sister, and my brother, and Taylor and I and the dogs. And that's just too much. Like
Yeah.
and like thinking back, I'm like, okay, we should have like gotten like a hotel or something.
Mm.
Um, but sometimes you just need like, especially when you're pregnant, you just need like that buffer or like that
Mm.
space of
Yeah.
having like your zone.
Yeah.
So, but anyways, so like basically like we got back 2 days ago and I have not like, first of all, my allergies came back when we came back.
Mhm.
So like I went from like not having any allergies when we were in California and like breathing normal and like usually I wake up here and I have to like blow my nose like 20 times and like I don't know, I just feel like I have like sinus pressure and so the last 2 nights I just have not slept. Like I can't get in a comfortable position. Like I
Oh
can't
no.
sleep on my back anymore because it like cuts off my oxygen.
Mhm.
And so I'm like trying to like get in these positions and like I don't know. So I'm just
Mm.
like as thankful as I am to be home. I am so tired right now.
Mm.
Like I'm like a
It's
zombie.
yeah. It's probably like a big. It's so related to like the environment you're in and stuff, and how it affects your sinuses and stuff. I mean, I'm not pregnant, but for the first time since being back in South Africa in Joburg, like it's super dusty here, and it's if you ever been to, it's very dry. It's like a dry heat, and it's like 90 degrees here, and it's not even summer yet. Like it's not even full summer yet. But like my nose from like all the travel, like it's the first time where I've had to wake up and blow my nose constantly. I
Yeah.
haven't had this before. It's very interesting. I don't know if it's the travels that I've been doing, or if it's the or what it is, change of environment. It must be like a mixture of all of those things that have just affected my body, and it's a shitty feeling. I know exactly what you mean. It affects your sleep, like breathing. I mean that's your breathe. That's how you breathe. You know, your breathing affects
Yeah.
everything. So if you're not breathing properly, it makes everything just so much worse.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And like I don't know, like I was just really bummed, I think, when I came back because I was like, oh, I love it here. And then I was like, oh my God, I'm allergic to Idaho. Like I'm allergic. I'm literally allergic. Like as soon as I get here, I'm like dying. But it's all good. Like, like yesterday, like so I don't know about you, but like so we got home like Sunday night, right? And we've eaten good, like we've eaten well.
Mm,
And we've tried to like stay away from certain things, right? Like, and of course, like, there's tacos and, cake and stuff like that at our baby shower,
mm,
like party that we had and stuff. But for the most part, like if I am able to hit that amount of protein, those things
mm,
don't affect me that
mm,
much, like if I do have some here or there
mm,
in those settings. But li- like I literally was like, okay, we're back Sunday. Like, okay, Monday, like I'm gonna get after it. Like I don't care if I don't sleep. I want this week to be like getting back to my normal routine. Because if you're
mm,
gone for 2 weeks and you're just like on vacation, I don't know if you ever feel this way when you're
mm.
gone, like traveling for a while, it like throws you off,
Yeah.
like maybe like you won't do your weightlifting routine if there's not a CrossFit center there that's
Mm,
nearby to what you're doing, right?
mm.
Like for me, like I didn't really weightlift. I didn't want to spend my time in the gym because I
No.
was like, oh my God, the weather,
Yeah.
it's not 100 degrees. It's so beautiful. So I would go on
Mm,
like so many walks and stuff like that. And we would swim when we were in Palm Springs. But so I kind of took like I think I guess 2 weeks. There was two workouts that were weightlifting in there, but I kind of took it off,
mm,
from weightlifting at least, and just walking and being outside and golfing and all of that and pickleball.
mm.
But now I'm just like this week, like I'm getting after it. Like it's October. Let's
Yeah.
freaking go. I'm in
Yeah.
like countdown mode.
Do
And so
you
I gotta make count. Yeah.
do you think that I was just a quick question on the being about the sea. Do you think the sea air like makes you breathe better? Just to go back to that, or what do you think it is that makes Idaho like?
Um, so here's the thing. So there's a lot of known allergens that really mess with people in certain areas. So
Mm,
I know for a fact, like, so for example, my dad's from Southern California, never had bad allergies. And for college, he moved to Arizona. He
mm,
went to U of A
mm.
and it just like destroyed his sinuses. And
Oh
that's
God.
like desert, like very dry, a lot of dust, like you were saying,
Mm,
probably similar to that of South Africa. Like it's
mm.
very, like Zion National Park
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
Utah, like it's kind of like that area of like Utah and Arizona that's like very dusty and like it's desert,
Mm,
right? Like it's a dry heat.
mm,
So like he got destroyed by that. Then there's people that move from California like me who moved to Idaho and there's like a bunch of rivers and stuff here. Not that there's not any in California, but there's certain trees called cottonwood trees
oh yeah. Yeah.
um
Yeah.
that basically just like their pollen's everywhere.
Mm,
Um and so like people that have never been around that, like me,
mm,
are like, what is happening? So I think there's a lot of more like just stuff in the air,
mm,
but I don't know if it has to do with the sea.
Mm.
I mean, literally putting my feet in the sand, sitting on the sand and touching the sand was like orgasmic, like it was just like,
Yeah.
that's really weird for me because I've never not lived by a sea,
Yeah.
you know? So I don't know, maybe there's some healing properties or something that helps push the air out or
Mm.
something. Like,
Mm.
I don't
Yeah,
know,
and
but
like
I think there might
maybe
be something.
yeah. Um, no, no, that's a good point. I was just wondering, I do remember you talking about the cottonseed trees, and maybe it just takes a while for you to adjust again. Like it's not so much a case of like, oh, let's go find the next, I don't know, thing to help, but maybe it's like, okay, my body's just gone through a bit of a stressful event, being back home.
Yeah.
Now I can just get back into routine. It's gonna take a while, but we get back onto it and we get back
Yeah.
into it. Yeah.
I will say, Josh, like you travel a lot. Like after this road trip that we just did, Taylor and I like look at each other and we're like, dude, like I am not going anywhere like far for
I
a
feel
very
you.
long time.
I
And
feel
I'm like,
you.
well, what do you mean? I'm like, because you have like a wedding in May. And he's like, honestly, he's like, I will stay in May with the babies and the dogs at home while you fly to go back to San Diego for that wedding in May.
Okay.
He's like, I'm over it. Like
And
that's how bad it
that's
is that
still a
like we
while.
don't
Like
want.
that's a long way away. And
No, I
so
know, but he's like so
yeah,
serious. And
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
also serious. Like,
Mm,
okay, I also
mm,
okay, speaking of like remedies, I guess, for countering, how do you counter an 18-hour drive or 16-hour drive?
yeah.
I literally got home Sunday as well, which is why I'm so surprised I decided to do like a gnarly squat workout Monday morning. I like definitely pulled my left ass cheek
Oh
on
no.
this road trip, like for sure. And so I scheduled a massage for like yesterday afternoon, a prenatal massage,
Ooh,
mind you.
sounds
And
fancy.
basically I was just, yeah, like I was just on my side the whole time, like while she was doing the massage, and it felt amazing. And I was like, oh God. So like now massage is coming back for me where like I'm gonna do it once every 3 weeks and get a
Mm,
massage.
mm.
I have never felt like, she's like, your back is like really bad. And I'm like, well, what do you mean bad? And she's like, it's like just like your from your shoulder to like your ass is just like knots. And I'm like, that makes sense. Like
You
I
are carrying
used to
like
get
this
massages all the
human
time.
as well. Like you've got this
Yeah,
infant
that's what she
growing on the
said.
front. Yeah.
That's what she said. And she said she was just like, yeah, just be careful. Like, she's like the second person to warn me about deadlifting when you're pregnant, because what happens is like you don't have ab muscles, like your ab muscles are not working like they normally do.
Hmm.
So by
Interesting.
default, your back takes the
Hmm.
like all of it. And I know like deadlifts are mostly like your back and your core and your legs, right? But
Mm-hmm.
like I was just really like, she's like the second person to warn me, like, don't do an all out deadlift like in your third trimester because your back is just in overdrive and you'll like throw your back out. And I'm like thinking to myself, I'm like, will I? Will I?
Yeah, that actually, I
I don't
kind
know.
of, as soon as you said, as soon as you were saying, no, don't do deadlifts, I was like, no, like the first thought in my mind was like, what the fuck is this lady saying? Like, fuck that. It's one of the best things you
No,
can do. But then,
she's
but
saying I
then,
can do them, but
yeah,
not
yeah.
all
No,
out.
the, now that you mention that, that makes sense to me. Like, your, a deadlift is as much of a core exercise as a back exercise because you have to brace your core, and if you
Yeah.
don't, that's when shit happens. So
When
that
you
makes
mess up your
complete
back.
sense to me. Like you have to go probably very light when you're pregnant, and make it probably more of a it's more of a Russian deadlift or
Yeah.
Romanian, sorry, Romanian deadlift, not a Russian
Yeah.
deadlift, where you're using more hamstring as opposed to
Hmm.
back. I would imagine that's a better progression as opposed to a full on deadlift where you like
Yeah.
hitting the ground and bringing it up, and it's very controlled.
Oh yeah. And I'll just use like our 40, like we have a standard
Mm.
like 45, like just the barbell.
Mm, mm, mm.
Like I'll just use a barbell. I'm like, you know
Yeah.
what, that's pretty much like good enough because I'm doing other exercises, other squats, like,
Mm-hmm.
dumbbell swings and like whatever. So
Mm.
it's fine. But I was just laughing because I'm like, oh, like I actually should be careful because I
Mm.
don't want to throw out my back.
No.
But I was talking to a girl who is a CrossFitter like you, and she literally told me, because I posted something the other day about like, a lot of people are allergic to working out when you're pregnant. If you do tell people you work out, they're like, should you be doing that?
Yeah.
Like, oh, like that's like the last thing I would do. There's just like a reaction, like a knee-jerk reaction to it. And
Mm.
you're like, no,
Mm.
actually, it's great for the baby. It's great for you. It's going to do all these things, right? Like improve your ability to have a vaginal birth, recovery time, like, also
Mm.
not get gestational diabetes, like all of those
Mm-hmm.
things,
Mm-hmm.
right? So
Mm-hmm.
working out, whether you're doing walks or weightlifting, helps in a lot of ways, more than what I just named. But a friend responded to my story and she's like, oh yeah, like I'm a CrossFitter. Like she goes, literally, my birth was 3 hours. She goes, I was like weightlifting up until the baby was born. And she goes, my birth was 3 hours.
Dang.
And she said that she only pushed for 30 minutes.
Uh,
And I was like, holy
Wow.
moly. And I was actually reading this book from one of like it's like a spiritual midwifery.
Yeah.
There's this gal, Ina Gaskin May, and she's kind of just like the US like midwife expert, if you will. And she was saying, she goes, squats, 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 squats,
Mm.
squats all day, squats all like literally, like she's saying, like build up if you can to 300 squats a day, like
Mm.
in your pregnancy, like start out and then every day do more and more and more. They're like the
Mm.
squats are going to help you so much.
Yeah, I would imagine
And
that
yeah,
position that you put yourself in is like that's the position that you anything that exits your body, whether it's a baby or otherwise, is
yeah,
is like facilitated by that positioning, and
yeah,
especially a deep squat. Like you don't just want to squat. I would imagine you want to like literally squat, like where your ass is like almost touching the ground, sort
almost
of thing.
touching the
Yeah,
floor. Yeah, I
yeah.
have my slant board, and that thing, oh my God, Josh, like I don't even know. Like I do my knees over toes
Yeah.
therapy, like twice a week I incorporate it. But like
Yes.
using that slant board for squats, I'm like it's insane. Like it
Yeah.
makes them so much more intense. And like, like I'll do the goblet squats, like the Romanian
Mm-hmm.
deadlifts,
Mm-hmm.
different, like so many different types of squats, like the ones too where like you go down and then you hold it and go up a little bit and down,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
so
Mm-hmm.
like the ones
The
where it's like
tempo
you're
ones.
holding a squat. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. It's like
So there's
time
so
and
many
attention.
variations.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, there's so many variations of them. So I think that helps a lot. But I mean, when that girl said like 3 hours and 30
Wow.
minutes of pushing, because on average it's 12 hours, like on average. And I think that's being pretty like hopeful,
Yeah.
that it's 12 hours. But I was like, yeah, like I
Damn.
am not letting up. Like I'm not letting up. I'm not letting 2 weeks of not doing weightlifting throw me off, because
Mm.
that can happen.
Mm.
And I'm just like, I'm in it. Like I'm going
Yeah.
hard.
Yeah. You want that. I mean, that's the thing. Like, it makes so much sense. Like, you you need muscle to actually make it easier. Like, because if you don't
Hmm.
have muscle, your body, how are you supposed to, like, how's your body supposed to contract if your muscles don't ever contract? If you're just sitting at a desk all day and you don't do anything and you're like obese, your muscles don't work. So how do you expect this baby to just fling out of you? That's a good point. I mean, I'd never thought about it like that, but it's a workout. It's a 12-hour workout
It
basically.
is.
Yeah.
We call it a marathon.
Yeah.
So I'm calling it a trip,
Mm.
like a almost like a psychedelic trip,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
just like hormones come into play, like oxytocin is kind of
Yeah.
running through, which is like the pleasure hormone, and then you have some adrenaline. Like
Mm.
it's just going to be a trip. Like that's kind of how
Mm.
I look at it, but it's also like it's a marathon. Like
Mm.
I'm basically training for the marathon of my life,
Mm.
like the marathon of life is giving birth.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
like in order to prepare for that, you got to eat well. So Taylor and I are actually being like pretty strict carnivore.
Mm-hmm.
going into like this last 2 months because I wanted to make sure that like I want to up my protein probably like twice as much, like maybe like 160 grams a day because right now it's like between 80 and 100.
Okay.
Um, and so like, like last night, by the way, halloumi air fried is like the
Oh,
best thing
so good.
in the world.
It's so
Like
good.
in the world.
Stuff's like crack cocaine, honestly.
Oh
Like
my God. I'm
we
like,
actually also got some,
what? Really?
myself got some the other day. And I just said like I can only buy one packet because it's honestly like you need to, it's like
Yeah,
crack. It's so
it
ridiculously
is.
good.
So what we do is we put the lemon on it
Mm-hmm.
and then we dip, like I eat it like a cheese stick and I
Yeah.
dip it in Greek yogurt and I eat it. And
Ah.
for Taylor, like it's really good too if because he likes honey and me, I don't like honey.
Mm-hmm.
If he mixes a little honey with his Greek yogurt and then dips it in, it's
Oh
like the sweetness with the salty. Um,
gosh.
and the citrus from the lemon just makes it like amazing. But I'm not into the honey, as you know, so that's fine.
Yeah.
But like
Yeah.
honestly, I was like, I wish halloumi was like less expensive because
Yeah.
I would probably buy that. Like I would eat that every day if I could right now.
Yeah. No, it
And
makes
then we
sense.
had like ground beef and onions. So we're
Mm.
trying to just like reel it back and like keep things like super simple.
Mm-hmm.
Um, just like it's just this is the home stretch. This is
Yeah.
where like everything really matters. This is where you shouldn't let up. And maybe I sound like super intense to some people and whatever, but I'm just going in with
No,
that
you're having a
mindset
baby.
because
You're having a
well,
fucking baby.
yeah,
So
and like it's
yeah.
gonna get harder. Like I can't
Mm.
breathe now. Like
Mm.
imagine me in like like
Mm.
3 weeks from now. It's gonna be like a little bit more
Mm.
like it's gonna be a little bit more intense. Like going up the stairs now. I don't know if I told you this, but like I'll get on like a conference call and I'll be like, oh, let me get water. I'll go down and get water, come back up for like a meeting for work.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Oh
hi
no.
guys. Um, but it's just like it's not that I'm fat or out of shape. It's literally just like the pregnancy and like all the blood vessels working really hard.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm like a monster
Yeah, like
on
I'm just
microdose.
picturing that. Yeah. So have you reached the stage where you're like walking like a proper pregnant lady now? Is that have you reached that stage? Is that what you're saying?
No, my God, no. I wore
No.
heels
Okay.
to our baby shower and I stood the whole time. Like I literally stood the whole time. It was like three
Nice.
hours. I was walking around talking to people, like and all that. And I wore heels. Like they weren't
Mm.
super high heels or anything like that, but they were like zero support, like
Mm.
you know
Mm.
what I mean? Like very thin, like like sandals with a heel like thing. And one of my friends, bless her, she was like, so you're probably like after the baby shower, she's like, so you're probably really tired, huh? And I'm like, what? I was like, no. She's like, you were standing a lot. And I was like, no, like I'm going out to dinner, like I'm like
Nice.
getting stuff going, like I'm going for a
Yeah.
walk.
Awesome.
Um, yeah, so yeah, not yet, but I'll send you a video once I do.
Yeah. Well, on like related to I suppose pregnancy, not really, kind of. But this lady says to me the other day, I'm in CrossFit, and she says, so I've obviously moved back to South Africa. I'm doing some coaching now, CrossFit coaching
I
actually.
love it.
So I've started doing that, which is a challenge. It's a welcome challenge for me because, like I was saying to somebody today, I've been so used to being a trainee for so long, where
Yeah.
the whole idea of CrossFit is for me was I'd be working in the day, I'd rock up, I wouldn't really care about, not really care about, but I wouldn't really pay much attention to everything around me. I'd do the workout, done, go, leave home. Now it's like completely different. Now it's like, okay, who are the people that are in the class? What are their names? What's the movement? What are we doing?
You have
Is
to care.
Yeah,
You
I
have
know
to
it sounds, yeah,
you have to
it
be
sounds
like,
so narcissistic. It really does, but
no,
it's
no,
good.
no.
Yeah,
You
it's
have to
good
be
for
aware
me.
of everything.
Yeah,
That's what it is.
it's a completely different hat, and I'm not used to wearing it, but it's been good. So I was chatting to this lady the other day. Obviously, we conversing, and she's quite a flamboyant lady. she's like, oh, so she knew about my Instagram page because the CrossFit, we work closely together with the CrossFit and the nutrition and stuff. She's like, oh, so you just don't like people that don't eat meat? And I'm like, no, I'm like, but I didn't really have a reaction. I was like, kind of like, I kind of want to, I like to like hear the reasoning behind people. So I was like, oh no, no, not at all. I'm like, you must do what you want. She's like, oh well, because when I cut out red meats, I stop bloating. So like this is where I'm going with the whole pregnancy bloating, like same thing, kind of, not really. But at
Yeah, I
first,
get what
there,
you're
there,
saying.
there is this like impression. So I want to hear from your perspective. But this is what I said. She was like, oh, when I stop eating meats, I don't bloat. Or sorry, she said, when I eat meat, I bloat. So I said to her, how do you know it's the meat? And she's like, oh no, when I cut it out, I feel fine. But then I said to her, okay, but have you ever had just meat? She's like, no. So I'm like, how do you know it's the meat?
Yeah.
So that's the first thing I say is like, before you assume that it's the meat, um, what I will say, meat is by its very nature harder to digest. So you will feel if you eat meat in conjunction with
Yeah.
vegetables, especially vegetables, high fiber foods, you will feel uncomfortably full because it's all this protein and all this fiber competing for each other in your gut. And protein is going to win all day, every day, but the fiber also needs to make its way through your system because fiber physically does not get digest. People need to understand that. It like literally just goes through you. That's
Through
what it's
you.
designed. Yeah.
Yeah.
So but meat is harder to digest. So in the beginning, you will feel a bit of uncomfortableness, but you definitely won't bloat. You won't like feel like your stomach's like like you're pregnant basically. But I want to hear your perspective on this because it came from a woman. So, and it's mainly women who tell me this. Like they say, "Oh, I bloat when
Oh yeah.
I eat meat." That's what I say.
I've talked to women who do CrossFit and they're like, I can only eat lean meat.
Yeah.
Because like, I just only they like follow like paleo, but they only do lean meat. So there's two things is that for like a standard person, right, coming up to you randomly or just a random person, most of the time, like, what are you eating with that red meat is what I always ask because probably 9 times out of 10, you're not a strict carnivore who's
Mm,
decided to take a journey of just meat and you're telling me that you're bloating because of that. When we know from our own experience and from others, especially like my sister, for example, who went hardcore carnivore, it was like night and day difference with
mm.
bloating. And like she felt like she lost 10 pounds. Like, I mean, she did. She
Yeah.
lost a lot of weight, but like in the beginning, like it was like after meals being like, oh wow, like my stomach is not bloated. Like
Mm,
it's so there is like the formula is just the meat, right? Like to
mm,
not get bloating, like what you're talking about, if you're eating it with fiber, if you're eating it with carbs, like meat has to be so low in order to do its thing, so
mm,
to speak.
mm.
And like not
Exactly.
cause bloating and all that. So that's the first thing, like what you asked, like what were you eating it with? Were you just eating meat? I doubt
Mm,
it because you're probably not a carnivore.
mhm.
And I don't know what this lady looked like, but you probably like this maybe is you can probably tell if someone's just eating meat.
Mm,
It's like very specific.
mhm.
Like, I mean, if you saw like a Paul Saladino, you'd be like, okay, I believe you're pretty much carnivore.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah.
there's or like Sean Baker, right? But it's really hard to tell for
Mm,
other people too, because everyone's body is different.
mm,
So I would ask that. And, I do tell people like, here's the thing, like I don't try to force anyone to do anything. So if someone's telling me that red meat hurts their stomach, I'm kind of like, it's not like someone's coming to me being like, hey, like I want to start incorporating red meat into my diet. Like I want to
mm,
get those nutrients. I know they're important. How should I do this? Because I do feel like I have a history of red meat kind of upsetting my stomach or being too heavy.
mhm.
So if someone comes to me with the latter, then like I'm totally on board to help. But if someone's telling me like, oh, I wish I could eat red meat, but it fucks up my stomach and like it causes me to bloat or something, I'm kind of like, you're a lost cause. Like
Yeah.
not really, but like there's not really that open line of communication for us
Mhm.
to kind of have a conversation about this.
Yeah,
It's
there's
more just
no
telling me red
yeah,
meat sucks.
there's no like, oh, that's interesting. Like maybe I should. try that. Like
Rechange
that,
my life.
yeah, that makes sense. Like it's so blatant. It's sometimes, and I'm not saying this specific person is like this, but like it's so easy to just assume that what you what you think is the problem is not actually the problem, but you have to try. You know, you have to try it in. Yeah, you have to try. I mean, that's as even you don't even have to go full carnivore, but just cut out like the veggies. I could tell people like veggies are the biggest scam. Like if you want to eat a bit of carbs, then do a Paul Saladino type thing. Go for the fruit, because that's going to be easier to digest in the long term.
Yeah.
But like vegetables are just so like pointless. Like it's just fibrous
Yeah.
pieces of stuff that need sauce. They need olive oil. They need butter to be eaten. They're not very nice on their own. So yeah, I think people need to just like kind of let go of that narrative that vegetables
Well,
are the answer.
especially if they're not eating organic vegetables. If you're eating
Mm,
vegetables that are covered in glyphosate, like in pesticides that are not organic,
yeah.
and even with organic, you can't even guarantee, but it's like, how do you know it's the meat? Like,
Mm,
and also if you do deprive yourself of red meat for years, like, yes, you're going to have to ease into things, right? If you're
definitely.
reintroducing red meat to your diet.
Yeah.
Like you're not going to be like, oh, I'm going to do what Nicole does and eat two like 10-ounce ribeyes
Mm.
for breakfast and dinner. Like, I mean, I did do that essentially, like when I started carnivore and all of my stomach and GI issues went away, which was, as I told you, like that was my main reason why I searched, because I was in the fetal position every night, taking
Mm,
Tums every night, like
mm,
wondering what the hell was going on with my stomach, like having appointments to kind of check what was going on. Um, so that's like why I actually turned to literally like, you remember me, like in the beginning, I was so strict and
mm,
I was like two ribeyes a day, period. Or
mm,
like two red meat cuts a day, like 10 ounces
mm,
usually.
mm,
So like that's pretty, I mean, now looking back at it, like, and all my stomach issues went away. So it's really hard for me to be like, oh yeah, red meat is like what's doing it to you.
yeah.
Like maybe cut out the vegetables. But I will say, like, I don't really mind people eating vegetables.
Mm,
I just think that like if you have bloating issues, if you have IBS, if you have gut issues, my first instinct would probably be to up your protein and
mm,
reduce your vegetable intake.
mm,
Because like you said, it's just fiber. Like fiber is going to make your stomach, like bloat. It's going to make you feel gassy. It's going
mm,
to just do all those things.
yeah.
So that probably be like limiting carbs and vegetables would probably be like my first thing. Before looking at something that ancestral, like
Mm,
we've eaten red meat since the beginning of time.
mm,
Like it's not Karen, it's not the red meat. Like
yeah.
it's not. I'm just
No,
kidding.
no,
But
that's a good reminder, and it does take time. Like you need to ease into it if you're not like, yeah, I mean, to be honest, I eat like a savage sometimes. I just eat an insane amount of food. But the scary
Mhm.
thing is, like I was saying, it's the only, I don't know any other like quote unquote diets where I can eat the way I do and not put on weight. Like I'm
Yeah.
eating more than I ever have, but I'm also training harder. But still, like it's I've reached a very comfortable point now where I'm just eating as much as I physically can because it just helps me train better, but I'm not putting on weight. Like it's just not
Yeah.
allowing me it's the protein that I'm eating is just not allowing my blood sugar to go any higher than it can. It's like the perfect damper really on everything.
Yeah. And also like we're not really eating for like reasons other than like, hey, I want to feel good and my
Mm,
body thrives off mostly meat,
mm,
like mostly animal-based products, right?
mm,
Like that's a good enough, do you know what I mean? That's a good
yeah,
enough reason to do it in and of itself. Like,
yeah.
hey, like I eat this way, I eat mostly meat because it makes me feel my best.
Mm-hmm.
When I don't eat this way and when I
Mm,
eat the other things, this is when I'm like, oh God. Like I'm in pain, my stomach's in pain. I have to like take something for my stomach so I think like I don't know, for people like that are very like questionable about this, it's like, hey, like I just eat to feel good.
Mm,
You know, like this is what makes me feel my best.
mm.
So I'm going with that.
And how, yeah, and how are you performing? Like a
Yeah.
good measure is like how are you. That's why I do like something like CrossFit or any sort of exercise regime because it's so measurable. Like I know I'm doing better because I'm performing better,
Yeah.
and I kind of want to be the example. Like just going back to the CrossFit and where I'm involved now, being a coach and stuff like that. I don't. I'm definitely not a preacher anymore. Like I'm just going and people can see that I'm doing well physically. Like I'm
Yeah.
not. This is not to like brag, but people have said to me like you're looking fit and you're doing well. So I want that to speak for itself, and I want to say so then when people do come, it's like your body is like your business card. Like your body and your performance is your business card in many sense. And as much as we don't like to admit, but we do look at somebody's appearance and we do say, okay, you are either you not eating great or you are eating great. It's pretty simple actually. Like you said, you can see if somebody's eating mostly meat. You can see it.
Well, you want
And
to know something funny to go even further for that being
yeah.
pregnant? People will be like, "Oh, you look amazing pregnant." And it's like, "Oh, it must be your genetics." And it's
Yeah.
like, "No, bitch, I try
No.
hard. Like
Yeah.
I am working out constantly. I'm avoiding toxins, like I'm
Mm.
eating really well. Like no, like this is not an accident why
No.
I look good for being this pregnant. You know what I mean?
No.
So
No.
it's always funny though. It's
Yeah.
like you like you like want to say, oh, it's not that she's put in the work. These are
Mm.
her genetics,
Yeah.
right? When it's like, oh, no, no, no. Like, and I think you said it, Josh. You're like, no, like you work hard to like have the body you have, right? Pregnant
Mm.
or not.
Mm.
You know, it's not just like, oh, it's my genes, you know, like
Mm.
whatever. It's like,
Mm.
no, anyone can get fat, you know.
People,
Just
yeah,
because you have good
it's
genes
it's
doesn't
so
mean,
yeah.
you know.
It's so easy. Like so many people say that. Like there's something so easy about saying, "Oh no, it's hereditary." Somebody said it to me the other day, and I'm like if you knew what I look like, if you just go back and look what I look like,
Yes.
I was the antithesis of somebody who was fit and active. I sat at home. I got home from school after doing
Yeah.
nothing at school, learning nothing. I sat at home. I played video games. I watched porn. I ate like shit. I literally did nothing. Like I couldn't squat. I couldn't run. I couldn't do anything. And somebody looks at me now. They're like, "Oh no, it's just genetics. You just got a good build. You built like a CrossFitter." I'm like, "No,
Bro.
this body has been in the making for a long time now. And yes, I've gone through up and downs, but I've put in the work consistently,
Yeah.
and it has nothing to do with genes. Because if I kept on going the way I was going, it was just bad. It
You
just
wouldn't survive.
no,
Like you'd be, I don't even know where you'd be at
would
this
be
point.
obese. Yeah.
But that's the thing. So like the people that say that, and like I don't think it comes from like a, you know,
No,
an ill place or like
no.
an ill, you know what I mean? Like someone, but they are like, it's almost like a little sting to us
Mm,
because you're like, dude, like we work so
mm,
hard to make sure like everything, you know, like we're doing everything within our power to
mm,
ensure that we're living our best life and feeling our best. So when someone has that little thing like, oh yeah, so for example, both of my parents have like six packs, right? Like
mm,
both of my parents are 60 plus and like they look amazing for being 60 plus, right? So it's easy for someone to say that knows my parents to be like, oh, it's genetics. And I'm like, well, my parents also work really hard. You know, like my parents go to the gym every day. They're super active. Like even my grandma was playing tennis up until she was 90, like
mm,
three times a week. So I'm like, no, like maybe, you know, their genetics. I think someone was talking about this, a gene specialist. They were saying it plays like less than
yeah,
2%.
yeah.
Um,
I
like in
fully agree
actually
with
how you
that.
are.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's just kind of like to us, it's like the people that say that maybe, and this is just an assumption, they're saying that because they're too lazy to accept the fact that if they did put in the work, if they did take the time to do whatever they do, that they could also, have what
Mm,
we have and have and feel good,
mm,
have an amazing pregnancy, feel good, look good,
mm.
be the best version of yourself. So I feel like a lot of people jump to saying genetics and
Yeah.
like, oh, that could never happen to me, because people don't want to do the work.
No,
People
it's
want
as
the easy
simple.
road.
I was gonna say the same thing. It's as simple as that. Like, and you might only reap the benefits like a couple of years later. But when you lay the foundations, like I firmly believe that the foundations, especially for like a meat-based diet and stuff, for me, obviously I was like very strict during COVID. It was actually a blessing,
Yeah.
but that sort of laid this foundation, and that created an identity for me, which is the most important foundation because it's so hard to change who you are once you've identified with the person that you are. So once that's in place, oh, I'm a like I'm it's like not even like I've mentioned many times before. You want to get to the place where your default reaction, it's like not even a question to me. When I'm going out, I'm more than likely going to get a steak. I'm going to
Yeah.
get a low sugar alcohol or drink. It's like just so I just know where to go now, and people, I understand people don't know where to go in the beginning. It's so overwhelming, but that's
Yeah.
why it's so important to lay the foundation. And there is that period where you're going to feel very uncomfortable. You're not going to be able to socialize properly. Um, you're going to get ostracized a bit from your friends and your family, and you need to accept that. Like you actually need to be like, okay, this is going to happen. I need to accept that because not everyone's gonna like be, oh wow, you eating only meat? That's amazing. Like I've listened to Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
No, they're gonna be like what the fuck? Like
You're
that's
gonna die from a heart attack
yeah,
soon.
like that's the first reaction. Like 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 what happens down there? Like would you go to how often do you go to the toilet? Like I mean the reactions people get is crazy. Um but which is why like again, it's not only a there's so much more to it. Like
Yeah.
yes, diet is one facet, but like you said, your training in and of itself has been just as important as your diet these days for your pregnancy. Do you know? It's yeah.
Yeah, you bring up a good point, and I've talked to other carnivore people about this, but like when you go down a path and it really clears up brain fog, it clears
Mm,
up ailments, and it clears up things where like you can just live a normal life and not have to feel bad after you eat something. There's part of you that just opens up this like almost like this portal to like a spiritual awakening in a
mm,
way. And
mm.
like, yeah, I'm gonna get deep and I'm gonna go there, but like mentally you're kind of just finally finding this peace,
Mm,
especially if you come from our backgrounds where you've had some negative relationships with food, and kind of like not being enough, not thinking you're enough, and stuff like that. But it really helps you to be like, oh, you know what? Like, what I'd love to do with my free time right now is get a kick-ass workout in
yeah,
because I feel so good and I
yeah.
want to get endorphins going. Like, what a weird way to think. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I feel amazing right now. You know what would make it even more amazing? If I like killed myself in the gym, like
Mm,
so there's just like weird things like that. But I don't know, like I always say, and I've talked to my sister about this, like there was definitely like a mental, spiritual
mm,
thing that opened up that I didn't know was there, where like you can truly find yourself, like and those habits that you're talking about, like the habits that you keep for like the rest of your life, like those are so important. And those are going to be the difference
mm,
in, like maybe when you can stop playing tennis one day, or like when you're like, oh, I can keep up with my kids, because I'm super active and I'm in shape, and like I'm not huffing and puffing chasing them down. I can do outdoor activities with them. So there's habits that we need to just continue. And I did want to bring something up. I remember us, Josh, being so pure, and I've had conversations with people about this, like just so pure. And I feel like, I don't know if it was around like the same time, both of us were just kind of like, you know what, it's summer. I'll have some fruit if I want to, or I'll have berries if I want to,
yeah.
and Greek yogurt.
Yeah.
But like I remember thinking about and I'm going to bring up Carnivore Aurelius.
Yes. Yes.
I remember thinking about how like we were like he won't show his face, right? And like how
Yeah.
that was like a just a hot not a hot topic, but just, whatever.
Mm,
But now I just appreciate him, I think, so much more
mm,
because like his message and overall, like I don't care if he never shows his face
mm,
because I
mm,
still think that the message he's sending and what he's putting out
mm.
there is so beneficial and so many people are seeing it.
Yeah.
And I just appreciate that so much. But
I
it's so funny
completely
looking
agree.
back.
No, I completely agree. And I've said to a lot of people like, and even when I wasn't like, it was a more of a reflection of my own insecurity. So like
Yeah.
I wasn't secure with my eating habits, so I wanted to project that out onto other people. And I've done that many times before. And I'm like, I admit that that was an insecurity in myself. And I've let a lot of that go now, like especially
Yeah, same.
recently. I like something small, like even with my mom, who's a 64-year-old, like literally mostly carnivore. She looks amazing for her age. Everyone can't believe how old she is. Her arthritis is completely gone. I have this inclination every now and again. I'm like, what the fuck, mom? You're gonna have dark chocolate? Like, what is wrong with you? Like, put that away, or
Yeah.
like, but that's my mind, and I used to act on that.
Yeah.
I used to always be, I used to be like, maybe you shouldn't have cream in your coffee, maybe, and I would always have something to say. But back to Carnivore Aurelius, like that was a reflection of my own insecurity and not letting go and not
I agree.
appreciating her journey. She was a vegetarian for 30 years. She smoked a box of cigarettes a day,
Yeah.
and now she's like like the transformation is like paramount. And here I am, just because I'm not comfortable eating that at that stage. Do I have to project that on her? No, I don't. I still think, with regards to a lot of his messaging and like Paul Saladin, I still think there must be some context, like with the fruits and stuff, but I'll never let that go. I just still think there's a
I
context that
well
needs
with
to.
Paul and
Yeah, more
Carnivore Relics, like we already
yeah.
talked about that. Like they are
Yeah.
in optimum and they can process that. But for
Yes.
someone new to the journey, it's like,
Yeah. You
hey,
can
you
see his
gotta look at
hand.
the
Like I'm not trying
context.
to be funny,
Yeah.
but like this is getting really weird now. But you can
No, but I know
see
exactly what you're gonna
Carnivore
say.
Aurelius's
You know that he
hand.
works out.
He works out, but he's been a skinny dude his whole entire life. So his main objective now is to put on weight, and the only way I think you can do that, unless you're a freak like Sean Baker who can just eat steak. I can't. I'm like Taylor in that regard. Your lovely husband. I can't eat that amount of steak. As much as I've tried, as much fat, I reach a
I
limit,
know.
and then the only way I can get my calories in is through fruits or yogurt or things like that. So
Other
y-
meat-based products.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and but you're absolutely right. We have come a long way, and I think it was a product of fear, and I think it was the time that we were in. I think it was COVID, and we just started our podcast, and I just moved to Netherlands, and I was still on this journey, and a lot's changed, but it's good. I love the change. I really do.
Yeah.
But it's
And
nice to
like,
know. Yeah, Carrie.
oh, I was just gonna say, like, I think there's little wins too, like with
Mm.
people and like we're not here to be like, hey, if you're not on carnivore, you suck, right? Like, we're not trying to do that because
Yeah.
everyone's different and you'll figure it out. People figure it
Mm.
out. Maybe you never figure it out. I don't know.
Mm.
I don't really care, not to be
Mm.
rude, but it's your own thing you're dealing with.
Yeah.
But like for me, like little wins and like you're talking about with your mom, like the fact that your mom is no longer vegetarian, eating meat, eating more clean, feeling and looking amazing is like a huge win.
Yeah.
Like for me too, like I had two people very close to me that I got off birth control.
Mm.
Like because of what my messaging and like everything
Mm.
I kept saying. They're like, dude, I'm getting my IUD taken out or
But you
I'm
did
stopping
it.
taking
Like
the
the
pill.
point is, you
Like,
did it. Like
but that's what I'm
you
saying. Like
weren't. Yeah.
if this can if maybe you're not going carnivore, but you're now like, hey, like I don't drink tap water anymore.
Mm.
Or
Mm.
like, you know what? I got off birth control and I feel amazing because of it. Like I finally feel like myself, which is what
Yeah.
happened to me.
Yeah.
But like those are like little wins as well,
Mm,
And
mm,
I always ask, Taylor always asks me, he's like, what is the end game with like doing the podcast with Josh and everything? Because like I don't like partnering with like brands, and I feel like there's a lot of bullshit and all of
yeah.
that. And I'm like, I don't really know. Like I just kind of was like, if it's up to like the, three people that are like, hey, like thanks for sharing information about this. This helped me get off birth control and I've never felt better.
Mm,
Then awesome.
mm,
Like, like that's enough for me. Like, I don't
mm,
really care. You
mm,
know what I mean? Like, I don't care about
yeah.
other stuff. It's more just like, I wish I knew the stuff that we're talking about. I wish I knew,
Mm,
like earlier. And I think a lot of people are scared to talk about it. So,
mm.
that's what's in it for me, Josh.
N- No, that's amazing. And like again, I was reflecting on my journey and equally yours because you went keto. So many people have just gone straight from a standard American diet to carnivore and
Yeah.
like experienced this transcendent experience, exactly like psychedelics. Like people do that. Like they have this experience, they touch God, and they now are that's a big
Sorry,
fly.
there's a fly.
They touch God and they now have this power that they want to impart onto people. But that wasn't the case with me. And remembering that has helped me now to appreciate that some people may need to just, the first protocol is changing their breakfast. Okay, eating eggs. Whatever you eat from that point on, I don't give a fuck. Just change your breakfast. Then from there, who knows? You start, instead of eating KFC, you eat vegetables. If that helps you eat meat, cool. Then you decide, hang on, vegetables are actually a little bit weird. Let me just try actually cutting down on them and eat more food. Then you're like, oh, this is actually working. But then you find out your own journey. You find your own process through that all. But that comes through experimentation and exploration. So I agree. Yeah, I
Yeah.
fully agree.
If there's, okay, question for you. So if there's three things that you can recommend, I mean, I know it's
Oof,
so hard
putting
to
me on the
pinpoint
spot
to
now.
three things. I mean, probably one for me would just for like going to anyone,
Yeah.
not saying like go carnivore or anything. I
Mm,
think the first thing I'd recommend to anyone is getting at least a minimum of 80 grams of protein a day in their
mm,
diet.
mm.
Like that would be like, oh, animal-based protein in their
Yeah.
diet.
Yeah.
Do you have like a second one behind that?
Well, I would say it's linked to
Or what
that,
would you
but
say?
for somebody who's a bit less quantifiable, like I know you like numbers and you like tracking and stuff, but it's for somebody who's maybe more aligned with my sort of style of eating, it links to the 80 grams of carb. Like I said, change your breakfast. Like the first thing that goes into your mouth in the day
Yeah,
is going to determine
the rest of
your
it.
everything. And I've experimented with this traveling Europe now and stuff, like just getting, and that links to the 80 grams because if you eat a big breakfast with like a couple of eggs, bacon, if you want
Yeah.
chicken, chicken, if you want beef, beef, whatever you want, but that just ensures that you just had this like little nugget of protein in your day.
Hmm.
That's going to change everything for you, but that links strongly to the first thing.
So maybe protein
Yeah.
with every meal. So make sure
Yeah,
you're
got
eating
it as
majority protein with
yeah,
every meal
yeah,
versus quantifying it with 80 grams
yeah.
because
But some people will need
that's,
that. My
yeah,
point, I don't want to dismiss
yeah,
that because there are people that want to know, okay, how much protein must I eat? And they will track that,
yeah,
and that's how they get started. They might not carry on doing that because
yeah,
we,
yeah, because
but
they'll figure it out.
yeah, but for somebody who's a little bit less chilled, somebody like me that just wants to know, okay, what the fuck do I need to do? Just tell me like generally what I need to do, just so I can do it, and then I'll figure it out. That's my first one. Second one, I'm thinking, what's happening in your brain?
I'm
Second,
thinking the cutting out processed food and seed oils.
definitely, yeah. I was thinking seed oils as well, like, and I think those two go hand in
Yeah.
hand as well. Those
Yeah.
two are like just meshed together because seed oils are preservatives and they are just the more I think about them, the more I get sick. Like I don't like the thought of seed oils. They just freak me out.
No, I literally I had wings that were cooked in like a vegetable oil for sure, and I
Oh
thought they were
yes.
maybe smoked, and I
Yeah.
could just taste it, and I was
Mm,
like, nope,
mm,
nope. I do want to say probably the third one, like this is my golden rule, just for anyone who's following any diet, anything at all,
Mm,
is stick to single ingredient foods.
mm,
If you can stick to a single ingredient foods, you will
mm,
feel so much better, right? So
mm.
that's eggs, cheese, milk,
Yeah,
like raw milk,
exactly.
but
Yeah, yeah,
like meat, uh, and that maybe those are like vegetables, right?
yeah.
But
But that
I don't
gets
know,
you,
those things are golden rules around eating, right?
yeah. And I'll add one extra one, like sort of as we wrap up,
Numero four.
is it's one that I carried a long time ago with me, but like that's how I got started. Is like chew your food properly. Like I can't you can't underestimate the power of eating properly. Like your digestive system starts with the way you eat, and if you can eat it with people you love, like being around family and is so important. It literally there's studies like your digestive system is resting and digesting when you're eating alone in front of a TV on Instagram, not chewing for 30 bites at a time. Your body doesn't know, it's not registering what's going in. It's not sending signals to your body as to how full you are, how much more do you need. So that's just like an addition for, I just think it's so
Yeah.
underrated. I think it's, and I forget about it all the time. I have to keep reminding myself, even when I'm eating big juicy steaks, it's still not ideal to sit there in front of the TV or Instagram eating steaks. It's not like you want to eat them in a good state, you know?
Oh yeah, for sure. I think it's just like the mental, like if you're eating alone and you're feeling sad or whatever, like
Mm,
text someone, like go over and have dinner with someone, be like, hey, want to come
mm,
over and I'll cook steaks for you
mm.
and us? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I totally feel that. It's definitely like a different experience. And like if you're watching TV while you're eating, if you're,
Mm.
just zoning out, like food is so good, you know?
Listen to your body. Like if you are alone, which is what I've experienced for the past like 2 years living in Netherlands, like
Yeah.
just put your phone away and make sure that that's a time where you eating and you actually like feeling your food like going into your stomach, and you feeling every single bite, because like ancestrally speaking, I would imagine, I'm not an anthropologist and I don't know too much about this, but
You're not?
no.
Just kidding.
but like food was so precious. Like that was
Yeah.
every, if you think about it, food, there is a reason you think of food constantly. It's not because you're addicted. It's because it is actually the most fundamental thing that is driving everything. Without it, you wouldn't be here. So it's so precious. If you squander it with, if you squander it by ignoring the importance of it, then you're probably not going to get the full range of benefits from eating well. Yeah.
Yeah. So I would say, okay, so just to recap our four, and this is just around diet, not even going into saunaing and,
Yes. Yes.
the sun and all of that, but just there's four things around diet. It would be eat protein with every meal.
Hmm.
If you can get 80 grams a day, great. That should be a minimum if you need
Yeah.
to track. The second thing that we discussed is cutting out seed oils,
Hmm.
right? Third thing is kind of goes hand in hand is just single ingredient foods.
Hmm.
And then the fourth thing being like enjoy the process of eating,
Mm.
like, respect the, I guess, the sacredness of
Mm.
having a meal and
Mm.
enjoying it and respecting it. And it's kind of like a paying respects to what
Definitely.
you're eating and like just
Definitely.
going through the process, like
Yeah.
appreciating it, right?
Yeah. I fully agree. I don't think enough Instagram people do that, to be honest. It's become such a thing to want to, I don't know, like,
Turn on the TV and just
yeah.
ignore everything.
So
Yeah,
yeah, but that was phenomenal. Yeah, that's a good summary.
I'm so glad. But yeah, I think this was a good episode and Josh and I were trying to get back here more regularly. But now that I'm not traveling for months,
Yes, yes.
and you're
I
in
should be
South
calming.
Africa.
I should be calming
Yeah.
down. I will say that I am going on a boat cruise
Oh, amazing.
in 1.5 weeks time, which should be my last bit of like travel. I'm actually going on the biggest cruise ship in the world. It's called the Wonder of the Seas in the Mediterranean.
Oh, that's gonna
Yeah,
be
so
so
that's
I was
gonna
gonna
be
ask
interesting.
where. Okay.
So it's this like incentive trip that my mother's company gets each year, and she's fortunate enough to
Oh,
take me
that's
along with.
amazing.
So
Please
um,
like report back to me though. Like cruise people are so interesting. Like
yeah,
people that are on cruises, like I just want to know like what the deal is. I've never been on a
yes,
cruise because I'm terrified. But yeah, just like report back. I'd love to
no,
hear about that and like the different people you see and
yes,
what's available on the cruise. There's gonna be such good food.
I hope
But
so. I hope so.
like I'm thinking
Yeah,
like shrimp cocktails, a lot of fish because it's
yeah,
Mediterranean, maybe. I don't know.
yeah. But I am very excited to actually, when I am back, get back into a routine. You know, I'm sure things will be a lot more
Yeah.
regular, and yeah, see where this goes.
Yes. Well, awesome. I'm so excited for you. And now you're
Thank you.
training. And again, everyone listening, like people change so much, like you can be so hardcore something one day and wake up and be like, you know what? No, it's okay.
Mm.
But like you're changing and you're growing. If you're
But that's
growing,
normal.
like that is literally all that matters,
That
right?
exactly. That is
Just
so
grow.
normal.
Yeah.
It's so
Yeah.
normal. It's not normal to not transform. Every single animal in the animal kingdom, every single organism goes through stages. And you got to appreciate every stage. Don't be embarrassed. I'll
Yes.
leave you. Don't be embarrassed with the person you were, because that was necessary for building. Because a lot of
Like you
people,
needed that phase.
yeah, a
Yeah.
lot of people want to run away from the person they were. Like, I was a
Yeah.
full carnivore. Like, I only ate meats and I
I
didn't
look
go
down on
to,
people not eating meat.
yeah,
No.
and I didn't go to any friends' houses and I didn't want to go out. Like, that's okay because your healing required that at that time. But
Yes.
now it requires something different and it requires you to be a new person. So, yeah,
Yeah. Well, awesome.
cool.
Well, bye everyone. Remember to like, comment, subscribe.
Nice.
Um, Let us know if there's anything you want us to talk about.
Yeah.
And yeah.